What to expect during a renovation. You've taken the plunge. You've decided we're gonna do this. We're gonna tear up our house, do a remodel, build an addition, whatever it might be. Whatever project it is that you've decided on, renovations can be disruptive. As we know, you've talked about a lot that there can be expensive. So these are a big deal. So let me tell you, they are not as smooth as you might think. Today, we're gonna talk about what you can expect during your renovation or remodeling project. And trust me, it's not just hammering and nails. So let's get into it. Hello. My name is Charlie. I am with Armada Design and Build in Bellevue, Washington, just outside of Seattle. Armada is a full-service design, build, renovation, remodeling, addition, and new construction company. We take care of everything from the beginning to the end, all the way through the process. So if you're looking to do a project in the Seattle area, give us a call. Okay. Construction. You've decided, you're ready, we're diving in, we're gonna tear our house up. So probably the first thing that you're worried about or should be thinking about is the disruption. What's it gonna be like? Mess, chaos. One of the big ones that you need to think about early on is, can we live in the house during this project? Or do we need to move out? People ask that often, and my answer for the most part, depending on the nature of the work, of course, is typically, with a little humor, is how much do you like camping? Because without a kitchen or a bathroom or a place to hang out, family room or something, it can feel a little bit like camping while you're there. So it's important to understand the scope of work and does it make sense? Where some people might be able to stay in a home during a project, and another family, it just might not be viable for them to stay in the home during the same project. So it's important to talk with your spouse and your family and is this something we can live through or not? And understand clearly from your builder what the level of disruption and chaos is going to be like during the build itself. One of the big things you have to think about is storage space. Where is the stuff going to be? There's lots of stuff that's going to come in, cabinets and lumber and windows and doors and stacks of flooring and tile and plumbing fixtures, and whatever it is that you've got going on is based on your project. Where's all that stuff going to go? We ask for, often we want at least one stall of the garage to put stuff in. Here in the Northwest, we have a lot of rain, as you all I'm sure are aware. So we want to keep that stuff safe and out of the weather so that we can get it installed. Now, it shouldn't stay in the storage area for very long. Once it comes in, it ought to get installed, but there are some time periods where you'll need a place to put that stuff. What does that look like, right? What is the plan to manage all of this? Not having a kitchen, what does that look like? For us, the way that we like to handle that, if you're gonna try to live in the home and we're doing a kitchen for you, what we wanna do is we wanna set you up a temporary kitchen in another part of the house that we're not doing a significant amount of work. We roll the fridge in there, maybe take a few cabinets out from the ones we tore out, set them up roughly, plywood countertop, plug in the microwave, some of that kind of thing. So at least you've got a spot to have some semblance of some normalcy during that process. A bathroom, there's not a lot we can do. Often we will go into a home that's got, say, 3 bathrooms, and we're gonna renovate all of them. We almost never do all 3 at the same time. We typically do 2 at once, leaving you 1 operational bathroom, and then get those done, and then we'll go to that 3rd one so that you can move into the first 2 that we remodeled so that you always got a bathroom. So that's important to understand what that process looks like and how invasive it is. Another thing that's important if you're living in the home, and we really pride ourselves on this, is the job site cleanliness and security, because this can be some dangerous stuff. There's nails and boards and wires and pipes and holes in floors and things like that. And particularly if you have little kids, small kids, children, something like that, how are we going to make sure everyone's safe? So that's important to understand that plan. Another thing that we do, particularly when we're working in a specific area in the house, is we'll put plastic up to contain the dust. If we're working in the kitchen, we'll put a whole wall of plastic across here, for example, with a zipper door to try to keep the dust in the space that we're working as much as possible. Another thing we do is we put filters over your return air ducts where the furnace is sucking the air into the system so that we're pre-filtering it and trying not to blow dust all over your house. We do floor protection with runners and ram board. It's like a thick paper we tape down to protect the existing floors that we're not necessarily changing, to keep that stuff safe. And we do that as well after we've installed new flooring. Because once the flooring goes down, often there's still a lot of work to happen. So we'll protect that newly installed floor with ram board and plastic and runners, just to make sure that we don't have to repair it or replace it or do something where it got damaged during the course of the project. So disruption and job site planning and management, really important. Where's the stuff going? Little stuff, Porta John, where are the guys going? To the bathroom while they're here working. We always provide a temporary toilet, Porta John, on site for them to use so that they're not having to go in your house. Dumpsters, all of this should be planned and thought out, and make sure you ask those questions to understand what that's going to be like. Specifically, if you're going to be in the home during the process, if you're moving out, some of the day-to-day is not as much of a big deal because you're not going to be there and have to deal with it. But if you're going to be in the house, really understanding what that's going to be like is a significant, should be part of your decision-making process. It is temporary, but it is real. Timeline, schedule. What does that look like? How do we know what to expect, right? What's this gonna look like from the day you start, come and tear up my house or demo my bathroom or whatever that looks like? The timelines can be tricky. I'm not saying contractors are lazy, but I am saying delays happen. Whether it's a materials shortage, unexpected issue, something comes up in the job that we have to do that we hadn't planned on doing, bad weather. Almost no renovations go exactly as planned. It's important to be patient and work with your contractor, set some realistic expectations and understand what that's going to look like and how long it's really going to take. Us on one end, I would say we are kind of extreme to the over planning and thorough, is that we have construction management software. We build a complete Gantt chart schedule for your entire job, every step of the process, the number of days it's going to take to do them, 3 days for drywall, 7 days for paint. We have an inspection on this day. We have tile going in for 6 days. Hardware is being put in on one day. Here's your completion, cleaning, all of those kind of things. That's kind of an extreme level of scheduling. It's a live schedule. You can see it all the time, logging into the app and seeing what's going on with your schedule. Other contractors might not be so thorough. They might just build kind of a calendar and rough out what that schedule looks like. Some don't build a schedule at all. They just do it out of their head. They just do it off the cuff. They don't have many jobs going, and they can do a fine job. But it's important, in my opinion, that you understand what their scheduling process is like and that you're comfortable with it. Because if they don't have a detailed schedule and that's something that you really need, then that might not be a good fit for you as a contractor. You might want to look for someone that thinks and works a little bit more in line with the way you think things should go. Because there will be days, even in the most efficient scheduling in a renovation remodeling project, when no one shows up. There won't be anything to do. And as a heads up, as the project tails off, as you get through toward the end of it, then the people at the job at your home are going to be more sporadic. Someone's got to come and do some work, but they only need to work for 2 or 3 hours. So they're not going to come at 8 a.m. and be there all day. They might not show up till noon, they'll be there to 2, and then they leave. That should be the case in the early phase. They're there, they're doing all their demo, they're doing all their framing, they're doing the plumbing, electrical, drywall, all of that stuff. Cabinets are being installed, flooring's being installed, things that take multiple days. That should be an all day, every day kind of thing. But then as it starts to wind down, not so much. So be aware of that. They won't be there all day, every day. Unexpected cost, okay? The third thing we wanted to talk about is unexpected costs, change orders, surprises during the course of construction. This would be one of those things that you should sort of, unfortunately, expect to happen. The question will be really two things, is how are they to be managed when they do come up, and how much have you done in the pre-planning and design phase to mitigate those. What is that gonna look like, right? Things don't always stay within budget, and it's really because you wind up having to do additional work. If you're have a specific set of work that we're gonna do, we open up a wall and there's a pipe there and we have to take that pipe out, we hadn't planned on that. That's going to cost extra. Now, that's important to understand that because of the way we work here at Armada is that we are a fixed cost contractor. So we're going to tell you what the entire job is going to cost upfront before we start. Now, there is another way some companies work, which is referred to as time and material or cost plus. And then those surprises, they are what they are, and they just give you the bill at the end of the week or the month, and there you go. But for us, that's a big thing that we try not to have those. So what is the process for dealing with that extra work, those change orders, those surprises during the course of construction? It's gonna sometimes make it cost more often than not. And then what does it do to the schedule? How long is it going to take? And what is their process for handling those additional days, delays, and whatnot that happens? How do they manage it? There should be a well-defined process that they have built in to tell you exactly how that's gonna work. So those surprises during the course of construction, do enough work up front to try and mitigate them, but expect that they're going to happen, and then understand and know what the process is for dealing with them and managing them when they do come up. I guess I would say is the sort of the best way to think about that. While we're talking about the change orders, often people will ask, do I need a contingency fund? Yes, you should plan on whether you have a formal contingency fund or you just have an understanding that there is going to be the likelihood that something is going to come up that's going to cost more than you thought. You need to understand. And one thing I would say is that the older your home is, and by older I mean 50, 60, 80, 100 years, as you get out into an older and older home, definitely plan on there being surprises and additional costs. If your home is much newer, 20, 30 years or newer, there should be less and less of those. So contingency, set aside as a formal. I don't like to put them into our contract and have it sitting there. I just like to make our clients aware things can happen. But for you and your budgeting purposes and your planning, that yeah, if this project, if I need another 10% or 15% beyond this amount, can I get that? Do I have that? What's that gonna look like for me? So I would definitely have some idea of what I would do were I to need another 10 or 15% of the cost of this job to deal with it during construction. We're under construction, right? We've talked about the disruption a little bit. We've talked about the timeline, what that's gonna look like. We talked a little bit about change orders, unexpected work, scope creep, as it were. And one of the things that can affect that is inspections, the city coming out and checking the work that we've done, which is part of your permits. You've already gotten your permits because you're under construction, so the permits have been taken care of, but having a permit isn't the end of it. Here in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Bellevue, where we are, permits are pretty stringent. They can be very difficult to obtain, take months and months and months, and there are lots of inspections along the way that you have to pass before you're able to go on. Things like framing inspection, a rough framing inspection before we can even put insulation in. And then you have an insulation inspection. You have a drywall inspection that the drywall is installed properly before you can put mud up. You have rough electrical, rough plumbing, HVAC, lateral inspections before you can put siding up to make sure your structure is adequately framed so that it won't fall down, ideally during an earthquake. So this inspection process is important. It's part of the schedule, but it can also add to the cost, because sometimes things come up that the inspectors find when they're out at your house that they require your builder to do that they hadn't planned on doing. So that whole little bit of permits and inspections and potential delays and additional cost is something that needs to be managed, and you need to be cognizant of that. And what is your builder's plan for dealing with that during the course of the process? So what is your plan for change orders? What happens if they make us do extra work? What happens if the electrical wants us to put in a new service or something like that? What is your plan? How does that work? And what would it do to affect my cost and my timeline? So important to understand about inspections and the potential negative impacts they might have. Good communication keeps everything running smoothly, and it helps prevent mistakes or misunderstandings down the line. So there you have it, what to expect during a renovation. It's not all smooth sailing, but the right planning, a great team, and a little patience, you'll end up with the home of your dreams. And here's where I come in. At Armada, we've done hundreds of renovations and remodels, and we know how to make the process as smooth as possible. We take care of everything from handling the permits and paperwork to managing and working with you on your budget and keeping things on track during construction. So if you want a stress-free renovation that actually stays on time and on budget, get in touch with me and the Armada team today. Let's make your dream home a reality together.